Hello, my name is Cathal O'Donoghue and I'll be presenting with my colleague Una Murray details of our new subject starting in 2022, international development. International development is a very important policy area for the Irish government. It's the recent document, A Better World, indicated that Ireland's vision is for a more equal, peaceful and sustainable world, shaping and protecting our stability, our prosperity, our shared interests and our common future. As part of that plan, Ireland is doubling its development aid to €3 billion per year up to 2030 as part of its strategy to increase our development expenditure to 0.7% of GDP by 2030. At its heart, at the heart of the strategy, is a focused pledge in relation to the Sustainable Development Goals, social, economic, environmental, and with the aim of leaving nobody behind and reaching the furthest behind first. Increasing international development aid, there'll be funds going to areas like gender equality, climate action, and governance. And I'll be directing the programme. I'm the Professor of Social and Public Policy in the University, Dean until last year. And I've done a lot of work internationally. I've worked for the Global Food Security Agency, CGIR, on its board. And I've supervised very many PhD students in topics of development. I'll be joined by Una Murray, who's a lot of field-based practical experience as a professional in the field, evaluator for the international agency programs like the UN, UNICEF, and so on, as board member of a number of organizations like the Irish Association of Non-Governmental Development Organizations, as a PhD in international development with a focus on labour and agriculture.
Thank you, Cathal. This is Una here, and I'm just going to talk to you a little bit about what is international development, as I'm sure many of you will already know, but you'll be curious to understand what would be covered in a course in international development. And Cathal already mentioned the Sustainable Development Goals, and I think you're probably familiar with them in school and you've heard about them, and they're a blueprint to achieve a more sustainable future for all. And there's 17 of them, and they're really diverse. They cover climate change, gender equality, poverty, water, and generally sustainability in cities and communities. So our BA will be focused very much on the Sustainable Development Goals, which should be achieved in the whole world by 2030. So progress towards the Sustainable Development Goals. So what is development itself? And development is really about bringing about social change that allows people, humans, to achieve their potential. And it covers many, many areas. So the BA is a very interesting and diverse course. So it covers many, many areas such as economic development, governance, how change happens, poverty, Cathal already mentioned gender, human rights, and human development. So really there's a lot there or a lot to choose from in the course. So what we're trying to do is set up frameworks where we understand processes of change, both in Ireland and Europe, but also in the global south, in developing countries. And that involves looking at communities, looking at how a country is governed, governments, economies, politics, institutions that are there to support local development or international development, but it also involves looking at groups of people who come together and individuals. So we say it covers many different areas, and we call that interdisciplinary. So why would you do this course? It would suit students who are, I suppose, open-minded. They'd like to help people to help themselves. It's not, charity, but it's helping people to develop their own agency to help themselves. It suits people who want to do something, rather than complain about this, that, and the other. People who want to feel they can contribute to society. So people who want to be a change agent. And also it's for people who like to see the big picture, who like to look at the global, what's happening globally and how things are interrelated. And it's very good for people who are interested in other cultures and geography and who are empathetic and sympathetic to other people's lives. So where could you work if you did international development? You could work in non-governmental organizations, for example, Trócaire, Concern. I'm sure you know of these types of organizations in Ireland, but there's a load of NGOs all over the world that you could work with. You could work in community development. You could work with the United Nations, such agencies such as UNICEF, United Nations Environment Programme, or the agency UNHCR, who deals with refugees. You could also work with government agencies. And Cathal already talked about Irish Aid and their vision and their budget. So you could work with Irish Aid in Ireland or abroad. But also there's opportunities for working with the private sector and consultancy groups who are contracted to do different aspects of development work. So really it's from local to global, and there's many, many opportunities for work. So there's different themes and topics that are generally covered in the course. And we mentioned some already: human rights, refugees, NGOs, and charities. We look at charity advocacy and planning processes. But really the focus is on how they operate in practice and how they function to work or to support international development. And three of the big areas at the moment, or there's a fourth one as well, gender equality, but human rights, climate change, and I'm sure you all know about how the climate is changing and how that's affecting farmers and communities and cities, but also food security. And we look at how these are interlinked as well, how climate change affects food security and how human rights and climate change are linked. And we also look at equality issues and poverty reduction. So as I mentioned, you could be working at the different types of places you could be working, but you could be working in rural areas, or you could be working in cities and urban areas. So it's not confined to one or the other. And you could be working with communities, on youth projects, on gender and social inclusion issues, on advocacy or rights type campaigns, as well as very practical technical development projects. So I would say that it's a very interesting and exciting course, and we cover a lot of areas. The slide here gives you some examples, like from rural development to financing, technologies, safe water, education, infrastructure, jobs, pensions, social protection. So it's a very broad area, and then you can specialize into certain particular areas. So day to day, if you were working in international development, you could be managing projects, you could be providing training and education, and the picture there is someone who's providing training to farmers or information to farmers. You could be involved in research. Also, some people go down the route of fundraising and advocacy for development projects. And a big new area now, an exciting area, is communications and reporting and videoing and audio and podcasts. And another area, although not during COVID, is travel or field work or research in the field, surveying, observing, reporting. And that's, you get an opportunity to travel to different locations. So really you'd be covering differences between countries in terms of history, economic differences, human development, human rights, I mentioned, project planning, research methods, data analysis, how to analyze data and present that data for use by policy people or institutions. You'd learn a lot about how to write reports, and you'd learn field work skills, which would include, interviewing people or doing surveys, and lots more. Okay, so these are all covered in the course outline, and I'm going to hand you back to Cathal, who will walk you through what's covered more practically in the course, or more substantially in the course. Thank you, Cathal.
Thanks, Una. So this is the outline of the course by year. So we start in the first year, with the introductory subjects. It's a subject in the BA. So in first year, you select 3 subjects, and then you specialize into 2 subjects in second and later years. So it'd be one of the 2 subjects you would select if you want to do international development. So you can select international development with many other subjects, and the college will be indicating the choice that you have. So in first year, introduction to development, what's it about? Sustainable development, because we're very interested in sustainability. It's an important objective of the university. Human rights, there's human rights throughout the degree. NUI Galway is very strong on human rights with the Centre for Human Rights. In second year, we start to develop your skills and deepen your knowledge, particularly as we're trying to have a practice focus. So we start with development policy and practice. And then we look at the business element of international development, climate change and agriculture, sustainable agriculture and organic farming, and contemporary issues in human rights protection. Then into year three. Year three is a year where you can go on Erasmus, you could take an internship, or to do other studies like a second teaching subject, or subject like journalism if you're interested. So it's an area to get practical experience or deepen and develop in other interests. And Erasmus, you could study development overseas, or if you're doing a language, you might do language studies while you're overseas. So there's a number of different things you can do there. Then in final year, we focus on professional skills. In terms of development practice, things like development, extension, communications, how to manage and get messages out there, how to manage projects. The second one is project and financial management, the technical aspects of running projects. And then a development practice project where you'll get your hands dirty in designing and thinking about and planning a project in the area of development practice. There'll be further topics in business development, particularly development economics. And then you'll select from a range of different disciplines. So there are very many different subjects or disciplines in arts, and there are international development dimensions to many of them. So you could select history, for example, looking at the history of globalization and development since 1945, sociology, development and change, politics, the politics of peace and conflict, and geography, focus on migration or local development, sustainable development, either economics or more detailed study of climate change, or further work on human rights in terms of sexualities, or human rights advocacy. So very broad. International development covers very many different topics, as Una was highlighting, and there'll be an opportunity for you to select. You'll select 2 electives from this across a wide variety of different interests. You can do international development in other places. So what are the unique selling points of international development in Galway? I guess sustainable development is across the degree. It's an area of interest of mine, of Una's, and other people who teach in the program. So we have a lot of practical experience in the field. Human rights, probably Ireland's strongest location for human rights. The study of human rights is in Galway. So that's very strong in the program. Business development. And the focus on being practice-based. So although it's taught in the West, it is a very global focus. And we have an interdisciplinary focus, bringing together about 10 different subjects together with a focus on international development. Very many students after their degree go on to professionalize further by taking other master's programs. And some of the programs that you could take in the university include the new Master's in Development Practice. There's an existing very successful MSc in Climate Change, Agriculture and Food Security, MA in Environment, Society and Development, the MA in Global Gender Studies, the MA in Rural Futures, Planning and Innovation. And then there's other programs like human rights that exist in the university. So depending upon the area of interest, there are very many areas you can develop further study in the university or elsewhere. Although this is a new subject at undergraduate level, we've worked in the area of development for very many years, either research projects or supervising PhD students or master's programs. And some of the destinations of employment for these students are, there's an example here. So Alison Heron is the head of programs for Syria, the Syria response at Trocra. Tarek, who's a PhD student of mine, is a consultant with the UN World Food Programme. Michaela is social media coordinator with the Green Step. It's an environmental NGO. And Hanley is the climate risk documentation officer at Concern Worldwide. So again, a wide variety of different types of careers, interesting careers, both in Ireland and overseas. So to finish up, this is a list of the grand challenges outlined by USAID, and these are big, important questions in the world today, and we're hoping to develop graduates that can help find solutions to these problems across the world. So saving lives at birth, securing water and food, powering agriculture, creating hope in conflict, ensuring effective health supply systems, making all voices count, water and energy for food, fighting Ebola, all children reading, scaling off grid energy, combating Zika and future health threats. So these are big questions, big interesting questions that we hope our graduates can make an impact around the world. So if you have further information, visit the website, and there's an ART website, and there'll be details about the program online. Or you can email me, Cathal O'Donoghue, at my email there. And if you have any other questions about the Open Day, feel free to visit the help desk. Very nice to talk to you, and hopefully I will see some of you in class in the future. Thank you.